All right, we're gonna get started and we're gonna talk today about how dogs actually create emotions inside of themselves. Because if you can learn how that happens, it'll be very easy for you to help your dog whenever they have an emotion. So that's really, really cool to be able to help them with that. So just as a quick review, we have something called the SUDS, S-U-D, and the SUDS stands for subjective units of distress. And what that is kind of like a scale, like a speedometer in your car. You go from 0, which is sleeping, to 100 being the most intense emotion you can have. And hold on, so one more person joining. And so just a review, Phoebe, we're here talking about emotions and how we measure them actually. So the SUD levels, again, is a scale that we're going to use to know when our dog, what's happening inside our dog. And so we have 0 is sleeping, and that's on the green zone, and 100 is the most intense emotion. That emotion can be fear, it can be aggression, it can be excitement, it can be anxiety, it can be freezing, it can be fainting. So these are all really intense emotions, okay? And so what happens is at 50, we have what's called the threshold of tolerance. And that's when a dog is kind of deciding whether they're gonna go back to a calm emotion or gonna heighten up into an intense emotion. So between 50 and 0 is called the reasoning zone, because your dog can think and it can actually process information and it can actually learn and fall and make mistakes, but it can get up and continue to work with everything you're giving them, and they can focus on you. That's called the reasoning zone. So that's from 50 to 0. From 50 to 100, we call it the reaction zone, because in this zone, the dog has so many thoughts and is going so fast that the dog cannot think and grow anymore. It's like 100% in survival mode, and it will take to physically grab the dog to stop them from reacting. Now, Bruce, you're really familiar with this because you're very good at actually helping Miss whenever she gets in that zone, right? Physically.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Now, the difference between these two zones is called how you know when the dog is going from one zone to the other is by body language. So can anybody suggest a part of the body that you can look at to know when a dog is getting intense?
The tail.
The tail, very good. So Bruce, what happens to the tail when a dog is getting intense?
Typically it just drops down, will go up, or sometimes just straight out, depending.
Yeah, exactly. So if the dog is in fear, the tail will drop down, right? And it will go right on their bellies, like it go right between their legs. Now, if the dog is intense more in a confident way, the tail is going to go straight up and it's going to get really, really stiff. And it's going to look really stiff like this, like vibrating almost. Okay, so that's the tail. Does anybody have any other body part that you can look at?
Their chest.
Pardon?
Like their chest, they're going to be up forward more and assertive.
Mm-hmm. What if the dog has fear?
Then it's going to cower like the other way.
Yeah, exactly. So because it's sometimes like if you're at the end of the leash, wouldn't it be hard to look at the chest? So sometimes a better predictor of that would be actually the back. So if this is the dog, okay, so this is our dog right here, okay, if the back is straight, that's a relaxed body language. If the back arches, that's fear or intensity. And if the back goes up like this, that's the confident, like possessive kind of like energy coming forward. So the back is a really good way. If you can't look at the dog, that's a really, really good way to tell what's happening within the dog. Now that we understand a little bit that dogs have this emotion, that we have the SOD levels to actually define emotions and to know where the dog is at any one time, now we can actually talk about what's happening when these emotions occur. So we're gonna do, hold on, I just have some notes that I wrote to make sure I cover everything today. So we're gonna use something called the Rosal dimensioning model, and it's gonna help us explain some of these emotions. So first, in this model, we have the high SOD levels at the top, and we have the low SOD levels at the bottom. And then we have the division of emotions. We can have negative emotions on one side, and we can have positive emotions on one side. Now, can anybody tell me what a positive emotion with really high SOD levels would be? So remember, the dog is heightened on the SOD level. So what would that emotion be? But it's a positive emotion. Can anybody suggest anything?
The excitement to see somebody.
Exactly, excitement. So we're gonna call that excitement. Okay, so that could be hyperactivity. I mean, it depending how fast it's going up, right? But that's excitement. Now, what happens was on the opposite end, if you have a heightened emotion, like a high SOD levels, but you have a negative one, you guys know what that would be? So that's a positive one. What would be a negative one?
Anxiety.
That is not high. It is a negative emotion, but it doesn't have high intensity. Yeah. So let's call it fear. Because fear is actually an emotion that moves up in the SOD levels. Okay. So that is going higher. Okay. Now we're going to go to the low SOD levels with a positive emotion. What's the lowest emotion that we can have positive that has high low SOD levels?
Sleeping.
Yeah, sleepy. Very good. So that's calm. Okay, we're gonna put calm there. Now, Bruce, the one that you were talking about before.
That's where anxiety goes.
Yeah, exactly. That's where anxiety goes, right? Because we have a lower SOD level. So a dog is not very likely to do an action when they're anxious. Sometimes they remain steady. Now, another thing that we can call anxiety could be worry. So we can put worry here. Okay, because depending on the dog, anxiety may be a lot of movement, and so that will bring it up. But some dogs just worry and there's no movement. So, but they're very similar energies. So that will be a negative emotion. Okay, so this is what your dog, this is kind of like what your dog actually fluctuates throughout the day. So you have moments of excitement, and if you add to excitement and an experience, okay, that's negative, what do you get? Fear. So that's actually what happens. So if you see, let's say you're walking down the road, okay, and there's a dog, and your dog gets really excited, and he's like, whoa, there's a dog I want to see, and he's really, really excited. And all of a sudden, as the dog is passing, the dog looks at your dog and he growls and lunges, and your dog actually gets scared. Okay, that will cause fear. So now we move from actually excitement to fear. Now, my role as my dog guardian is actually to help my dog in that moment. So for me to be able to help my dog in that moment, there's only one way. What do I have to do to get my dog from fear to excitement again? Do you guys know?
Get close to them helps.
Yeah, that's perfect. So that's the first thing I have to do. I get close to my dog. But what's after that, Bruce? Once you get close, what do you do?
Steady. You might just have yourself as a bit of a barrier between yourself and whatever the dog's afraid of.
So once I go close to my dog, I'm actually gonna create distance. Okay, so once I go to my dog and my dog is no longer like acting up, I definitely want to create distance.
Yeah.
Now, if my dog is lunging or something, I can't create distance. All I can do is get close, right? But I want to create that distance. I want to move away from whatever caused the fear away. Now, because movement is rewarding, I'm not going to be calm yet. I have to create, it's going to create excitement. Moving away is going to create the excitement. Okay. So then what does it take for me to bring that excitement back to calmness? There's only one way, and that's called chewing. Chewing. So the reason why is because dogs release intensity through their mouth. Okay, so I can remove my dog from the situation. Like, for example, if I walking down the road and my dog got scared and I got close and I was finally able to move out of the way, I can put my dog back in the car and I can give my dog a chew toy or a chew or bone or anything like that. And my dog can then relax and chew. Now, if I don't have a car, I can move out of the way, sit down, relax, and then get my dog to chew in some treats and actually chew them. So hold them for her. I may carry something that is like that. Like, for example, Christina experienced, so Christina and us, we went to train our dogs that are training to be a service dogs to the SkyTrain. And this was the first time some of them were going on the SkyTrain. So there was a lot of this. There was excitement. Sometimes they moved into fear, so we created distance. And then what we did is immediately we had a chew. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And we were actually with the chew in our hands. We were putting them in their mouth, and they were like, ang, 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 ang. And we were actually encouraging that chewing because we wanted to bring the excitement back to calmness.
Mm-hmm. I have a question about that.
For sure.
So we took the train over the weekend and there was a stall on the track. So we were stuck 14 minutes in the train. We couldn't go out. The doors were closed. I got a bit anxious and I think she sensed that anxiousness from me and she didn't want to chew anything. And then when we got to the next station, everybody piled up. So it really tested our limits about riding on a crowded train. So we just got thrown right into there.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to help you because do you see here the success pyramid? We're going to cover that in a minute, but I just want to finish this little part here so you so continue to understand this. And so basically, this is exactly what happens. Now, if the dog doesn't have a negative experience, but experiences something that they don't know what to do with, something like, let's say, something novel, like a sound they never heard before, or like just that situation where there was a lot of people really fast, novelty, something that they're not really thinking about, that could bring them back from calmness to worry. Okay, and the same thing. Now, worry is a little bit different than fear because worry is more of a like an attitude where you don't know really what to do. Okay, whereas fear is like you either bite them, run away. There's actually a lot of quick options for the dog, but worry is like I'm not sure what to do. So when the dog worries, the way to bring them back to calmness is actually by your marker word. So you're gonna have a marker. And that marker is a sound. So what happens is if your dog is worried, the salt levels are actually not so high. So notice I'm not about the blue, right? So I haven't passed the threshold. So this is my threshold of tolerance. So I haven't passed. So when I'm in that moment, if I make what's called an interrupter sound, I can actually get my dog to look up at me. And then what I do, as soon as they look at me, I give my marker word for, yes, good job. And that's when I really want to use my sounds and my body language in a very calm way to actually create distance again, and then create more calmness. Now, distance maybe not like really far, it may be just a couple of steps. Now, you guys remember last Zoom class, we were talking a little bit about the walk, and we were talking about there's different types of walks that you can do. So one of the things that you can do to create calmness is actually what we're going to talk in the success pyramid. So the success pyramid is a strategy of what do you do to create success in an experience with your dog. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move this a little bit, you guys, so you can see a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I am going to first activate my dog. So I am trying to bring my dog from worry to calmness, okay? So first I'm gonna do is I'm gonna activate my dog, and that activation is called a soothing walk. Now, who remembers what we were comparing a soothing walk to last class?
Figure eight.
Pardon?
Figure eight.
Yes, good job, Bruce. Wow, I'm super impressed right now. Good job. So we can do a figure eight walk.
I've been doing that with Misty.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So basically what that is I start moving and my dog is following me and I'm keeping the same pace and I am moving in this figure eight. Now, if I have a little dog, okay, I may have to do a longer figure eight because little dogs have a harder time doing the eight. So I may have to go like this. Right? If I have a dog that really follows me, I may only have to do a small figure eight. So it really depends on the dog, like whatever encourages your dog to follow you. So that will be my figure eight walk. Now there's another type of walk that we can do as well when the figure eight is a little difficult. And that walk is called the pendulum walk. So just like a pendulum, you want to go back and forth. Like this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you're gonna keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. And now this figure eight and the pendulum walk, they both have one thing in common. And what they have in common is the pace. The pace that you're doing with must have a rhythm because you're kind of using it as a way to help your dog relax and be hypnotized by your movement. So if you're changing the pace, that's not going to work out for you so much. You have to have a very steady pace where your dog is following you, following you, and following you, and following you, and following you. Now, once you get your dog following you, okay, then there's going to be one moment where your dog is going to change. And that moment is going to be called the moment in which your dog chooses to engage with you. What is the simple way in which your dog engages with you? What is the simplest way?
She looks at you.
Pardon me?
Looking at you.
That's right. So the second she looks at you, what do you do?
Yes.
Pardon?
Mark it.
Mark it, yes. So you mark it with a word. So now, hold on, I'm gonna add a different color so you guys can see that. So I'm gonna mark it with a word. So I'm gonna mark it, and then there has to be a resource. So think about this moment as your dog learning to have a control remote for a TV. So, you change the channel because whatever you were watching wasn't interesting. So then what happens is you change the channel, you find something interesting and you keep it there. So basically, when the dog chose to look at you, you're going to mark that, and that's the change to the channel. So now I have to add a resource. Now we talked about this on our last class. What is a resource that we can add whenever they look at us in our walk? You guys remember that?
Could be a treat.
That is good, a good one, but this is the very beginnings of the engagement, so I will not necessarily want to use a treat. So what do you do with your speed?
Can we change our pace?
Yeah, exactly. So for this one specifically, we're going to change our pace. Okay, so that's going to be the first resource we're going to use. So now remember, one of the things we're doing right now is when we participate in these Zoom classes, we're actually getting all these concepts to be very solid in our heads. So when we practice games and where we're actually training our dogs, is so much easier because we don't have to worry about the why we're doing something. That's what we're building right now. Whenever you have a clear why of what something is being done, you do it more gladly. You actually want to put all your energy into it. If there's no clarity why you're doing something, it's a lot more difficult to change something. But when you have a strong why, a strong starting point of this is how I support my dog and this is why, and you can explain it to people, you're going to be more willing to embrace the exercises and actually try them on and try and actually experience what it feels like to work with your dog at an organic level. So right now we got that. So the dog chose to look at us. We mark that behavior, and the first resource we're going to give is speed. So we're not continue our pendulum walk. We're going to continue our figure 8 walk. So pendulum and figure 8, we're going to continue our walk like that. And then the dog is going to choose another engagement. So then what can you do for an engagement, guys, after that? What do dogs like to do as predators?
Sniff? Or...
Yes, but more active because we're walking.
Sniff.
Pardon?
Sniff?
Yeah, a sniff is like kind of like the calm version of it. So what do predators want to do? Before they get to, after they sniff and they already found it, what are they doing?
Chase.
Chase. That's right, chase. So the next resource I'm going to do is going to be your proximity or proximity game 1. Proximity. And that proximity game is where the dog looks at you and you toss a treat and the dog runs to get it. And then they look back at you and then you toss a treat on the opposite direction and they go get it. And then they look at you and you toss another treat on the opposite direction. Right? Proximity 1. So that is the next exercise. Proximity 1. And these are all games. So now all of a sudden, the dog willingly a few times looked at you and you change the speed and then you slow down again to your regular pace. And then you change the speed again and you slow down to a regular pace. And then you choose to do a proximity game when they looked at you. And now you've done a couple of times where the dog believes she has remote control. She can get you to do stuff. Oh, look, I can get my owner to do stuff. All I have to do is look at them. And that's what they start thinking. So at that moment, what happens to the sub levels? They're going to go down because the more that the dog feels that they're capable of something, the more the sub levels go down. Think about it, okay? If you're experiencing fear, okay, if you're experiencing like a level of uncertainty, what are your sub levels like? Like, you know, Christina, exactly that example is so perfect that you share. And thank you so much for sharing because that helped us grow.
With a bunch of people, yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that you didn't know what was happening to the train
Yeah.
and you were stuck there, you know, that is a moment where that uncertainty, that brought your sub levels up, right?
I just everything.
Yeah. And then you don't know what to do, right? So for humans, by the way, the best thing to do in those moments is breath. Just focus 100% of your breath and slow down. Count it. Like really focus on breathing because until you have the tools where you can permanently change yourself, like, and when I'm talking about tools, I'm talking specifically about TechnoTutor, which is something that I've been using to grow myself and that a lot of people have been using in order to change patterns that they have. And that's something that you can look, if you go to my Facebook page, you can learn a little bit more. If you want to learn a little bit more, we can talk about it later. But that's something that actually changes you at a cellular level. So you can actually change your triggers. So you no longer have them, right? But until you have that tool, breath is there for you, like 100% breath. All right. So now my dog went up. I started my soothing walks. Then my dog chose to engage with me. So then my dog learned that they have a level of control, that they can get me to do things by looking at me. So now the salt levels are really low. Now, when the salt levels are low, what can the dog do? They can learn, right? So only then, when they can learn, can I add the next level. And the next level is literally games. Why is it that we are focusing on games? Why is it that we're focusing on that specifically? And the reason why we're focusing on games is because when you think about your life, okay, what are the things that you remember the most? Is it the work that you're doing on a regular basis, or is it the times that you were having fun with your friends? The times where you had meaningful relationships, that Christmas party where your friend puked all over you and you were trying to help them, and like things like that, right? Like parties, like you're thinking about all the moments where you have to grow. Those are the moments that actually leave an impact in you. So what we can do is we can actually grow our dog personality. We can grow their ability to have tolerance through games. Now, Bruce sent me an email that was really interesting. I haven't had a chance to respond because I just saw it. But Misty is a really passive dog. She's actually kind of like a couch potato. She loves to just be kind of mellow and stuff. So sometimes to play games, it's hard to motivate her. It's hard to get her to like get out of her like calmness and actually engage in something. So we're going to be working together to create more of those experiences for her where she gets more like light up. So whereas I, for example, for Megan's dog, I may actually be creating games that do the opposite, create more relaxation, because my dog is already fired up. It's already engaged. She already wants to be with me all the time. She wants to play all the time. So my games are going to be more directed to creating calmness. Whereas the games with Bruce are going to be more directed to create a little bit more excitement, right? So everybody is different, right? So now, so those are the games, and that's why we want to play games. Now, games are something that we use because inside of your dog's brain, so inside of your dog's brain, this is your dog's brain. Bloop, 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 bloop. That's the brain. Okay, inside the dog brain, we actually have all these bricks. And these bricks, and this is obviously, it's not real. There's no brick inside the dog's brain. It's just a way to understand it, right? But there's all these bricks, and these bricks represent concepts. And these concepts actually create the personality on my dog. And these concepts, if my wall is not solid, when there's a stress to it, the wall falls apart, and what we get is intensity of salt levels and then huge reactions. So what we want to do, what we want to aim is we want to aim to building these bricks more solidly, actually creating bricks that are so strong and the dog understands so much that they don't, no matter what the stresses are, they can still respond and they can still focus on us and they can still have fun. So some of the bricks that we have are focus, optimism, there are engagement, there are sharing, there are, a little bit of drive. We have prey drive. Drive is the desire to work. We have disengagement. So disengagement is something we want to use when, like, for example, the dog is looking at a duck and is really interested in the dog. If the dog doesn't have a solid brick of disengagement, he won't be able to focus back on us and let go of that thought of like, oh, I may want to chase that duck, right? So, or I'm going to chase the horses or the goats or like anything like that, or the bikers or the skateboarder, right? So that's one. Another one is confidence. And there's all these different bricks. And so we're using these bricks often. And what we do is every single brick of those, we have games for them. We have a lot of different games, and those games create that change. And so what we want to do is we don't have to be in the situation where my dog fails to actually build my dog's bricks. As a matter of fact, you want to actually build your dog's bricks away from the situation because they can learn better. Skinner has a box called Skinner was a psychologist, and he did a lot of work with animals, and he realized that in order to grow somebody's brain, the best way to do it is to remove all the distractions around, put them in something he called the Skinner box, which was a box with no distractions, and then he will introduce a concept. And then he will make the animal successful in this one box. And when the concept was well established, then he would add the distractions slowly. So what I want to do is I want to play all these games away from the distractions first, so my dog can be successful. And then once the distractions are like the dog is succeeding a little bit at a time, then I can then, after a lot of them, and after I build a lot of different games, then I can put my dog in the situation, and then my dog is going to have no problem because his wall is going to be stronger. So actually, I don't even need to practice near the things that are causing my dog's problem. I just need to make that wall a lot stronger. Right? So that's one of them. So that's the reason why we're playing games. So that brings us to the actual subject of today. We was actually building some congruency. So congruency is a little bit difficult. It's a little bit difficult to understand because it's not consistency. Congruency is something where we want to be basically what we want our dog to achieve. We want to do it congruently within us. So that means that we believe what we want to achieve, and we always are congruent on that belief, that thought pattern. So it's not about the dog. Congruency is about the person. And so, for example, if my script is my dog is calm and relaxed around children, okay, that's my script. In order for me to be congruent, I have to rehearse situations in which my dog is going to offer that calm behavior. And I'm going to create those experiences for myself and for my dog. So if I see a child and I go, woohoo, Sanji, let's go, and I'm like getting him really pumped up and really, really excited, I'm actually not being congruent with my script. Myself, I'm not being congruent. I'm creating this experience. This has nothing to do with my dog. He didn't choose it. I created it. So then if I created this experience, how is my dog able to succeed? He's not able to because I'm not able to assist him on that. So congruency in the work of dogs means that you agree on your starting point for a particular thing. And the reason why we were covering the emotions and a little review of the sub-levels, I had to have the success pyramid really clearly, is because all of this is going to help us be congruent. Because a lot of the times when we're working with dogs, we actually self-sabotage ourselves. So let's look at an example. A lot of people have their dog, and let's go back to that example about seeing another dog down the street. So I see my dog sees a dog, my dog gets excited, okay, about the dog. And what I try to do is I try to engage my dog, and I try to, come on, let's go, watch me. And I try to do all these intense things. So as I'm doing the intensity, I'm actually increasing the sub levels, right? But if I had done actually moving away, and then created the opportunity for my dog to activate by doing a soothing walk without me being intense, my dog will have actually chose engagement, and after engagement, I can play. Now, the challenge with that is that sometimes you're not actually able to predict how close a dog will come to you or how fast a dog is going to come to you. So that's what the challenge is sometimes, that and may not be able to move too far away. So that's what I'm saying. When you start working with some of the games that we're going to teach you during actual classes, like next Monday, we start our pack walks again. And we also have now a pack walk on Saturdays, not this weekend, but the next weekend where it started. And those pack walks will be from 10 to 11 a.m. And that will teach you a lot of these games, a lot of how to utilize all this knowledge while you're actually living life with your dog, and how to assist yourself to create a totally different experience. Bruce, I can't hear you. You're muted. Can't hear you. You're still muted.
Okay, quick question on Monday. It is a it's holiday, Labor Day, right?
Could you say that again? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Monday is a holiday, Labor Day. So you're going on the holiday?
Oh, that's a good point. No, we're not. I'm gonna see if I can still do it, but I'll get back to you, okay, on that one.
Okay.
I'll get back to you if we can do it, but I'm gonna do my best to make it happen. I just have to arrange some things because nobody works on that day, so I may be really busy with our dogs.
Yeah.
But if I can make it happen, I'll just send you guys a text.
Excellent.
And I'll put it on the group. All our notices we're putting on the group, so keep updating, keep looking at the group. That will help.
That's
Okay.
Facebook?
Yeah, on Facebook. I can send you the link to it, Bruce.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So so again, there's a little bit of challenges when it comes to like controlling other people, but you don't have to worry about that, because as soon as you start focusing on those things, it's not going to serve you. The best thing to do is actually to focus on yourself, to understand the why you're starting in something, and to set yourself up for success. So if I know my dog has a little bit of reactivity or gets too intense around dogs, I may not walk in places where there's very narrow trails. I may walk in places where I have a lot of space to walk in. And I may actually spend a lot more time working with my dog. Like an example would be, I'm not gonna feed my dog from a bowl. I'm gonna use all her meals throughout the day to work with her, so I can send consistent messages that playing with me is the funnest thing. There is nothing more rewarding for a predator than working for their food. And you see them completely change their demeanor. They're so grateful and they start having so much fun. Whenever you give the dog their food on a bowl, is definitely not the same. It is not the same at all. You lose that opportunity to really engage with your dog. So you can, if you're worried about feeding your dog too little, you don't have to give one treat at a time. You can give your dogs more treats. And what I actually find is that the dog actually eats more when they're engaged with you and when they're learning from you than when they're eating from a bowl. I find that the case. Now, I have other people that say, well, but my dog eats a lot of supplements. So I go, oh, that's perfect. So what I do is I mix the supplements with a little bit of canned food. I may put it on a cone, or I may put it on a leaky mat, or I may put it in a container. I freeze it, and boom, another opportunity to reward my dog for interacting with me and give them a bigger reward, kind of thing. Do you guys have any questions about what we talked about today? Okay, awesome. So this is just the background of why we're doing the things that we're doing. So every Zoom call, our idea is we want to actually get closer to understanding why I said that I want to play with my dog, why I said that I want to give my dog a lot of opportunities to grow, especially on their concepts, on their bricks in their brain. Why is it that I want to repeat those exercises, and how to really use my interaction with my dog to help them. So remember, distance is key. Distance can get you to calmness. So that's something you should aim for, creating distance whenever the things are not going well for you. Okay, and the first step for distance is always getting close to your dog. Always getting close to your dog and sliding. We'll show you that technique later on. And does anybody want to talk about a particular challenge that you're having?
I just maybe have a question on the SUD level as it relates to like sort of puppies and, you know, that particular that witching hour, like the zoomies that happen. So I'm like looking at this, I would put that in the excitement category.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. So what I would do is, let's say that I know for a fact that my dog at 7 o'clock is zoomies. Because that's what they do, right? For some reason, 7 o'clock seems to be the time where puppies just start getting zoomies. So what I do is I want to tell my dog that engagement with me is actually the greatest form of reward. So at 6:50, before the zoomies, I either use a toy or get excited and start running with my dog, and I start playing with my dog, and I start like playing games with my dog and getting that energy out at that point. And then what happens is I did like 8 minutes of like work with my dog. And one of the greatest really ways to get that energy out is through the proximity exercises, the engagement exercises. That not only those particular exercises teach your dog that they should come to you all the time, that you're basically more valuable than any distraction in the environment, that the more they want to come to you, the more they get. That's what the proximities and the engagement exercises do. But another thing they do is they create this muscle memory where the dog doesn't even know why it's coming. It's like a yo-yo. You send the dog out and they want to come back faster because actually all the good stuff is happening with you. So that's super fun. So those are some of the games that I will be playing with my puppy. I like 10 minutes before zoomies. Okay. So then all of a sudden, zoomies are not even there because the dog already spent all its energy while we were working together.
Okay.
So that's a really, really good way to work with zoomies. I love zoomies. They're hilarious. But the other day I put like 4 dogs in my place and they all had zoomies at the same time. And it was literally every dog flying in all directions. And I'm like, okay, no. I had to catch one at a time and put leashes on and take them outside and then play with them outside. Because inside the house, okay, you become what you think about most of the time. You become what you practice most of the time. Thoughts actually are created by words, and words are the bricks in your mind that actually create an action. So for a dog, if I allow them to have that crazy energy inside my house, that my house is going to get associated to crazy energy. So then whenever they come, they're going to think that's okay. But I want my actual place, like my living room, to be a place of relaxation. So if I want to watch a movie, we can all cuddle on the couch, right? That's what I want to do. So then I had to take them outside and outside go, okay, ready, let's go. And then we did playtime outside and got all the energy outside. And then when they were calm, I brought one at a time inside. And then what I did is I had a really big bed that I have. If any of the dogs went on the bed, I tossed treats. So then I started playing a game. And then what ended up happening is that 3 dogs were on the bed. Now, how many dogs did I have? 4. So from those 4 dogs, 3 dogs got it. Oh my God, if I sit on the bed, I get treats. Yay. And then while I was doing my stuff, I kept tossing treats every once in a while. By the end of the work that I was doing, they were all settled. Everybody was calm. And then what I did is when everybody was calm, I say, you ready, guys? Let's go. And we went outside and we played again. And that was the reward. That's exactly what I did. I created the experience that inside my place, we're going to be calm. But at the beginning, they were so happy to come to my place that it turned into this crazy, blah, 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 blah. It was like, oh my gosh, catch them. You know? So it was hilarious, but at the same time, not appropriate. Even though it's hilarious, it's really, you're laughing the entire time because you can't help it. Seeing puppies all over the place is just funny, right? But I still have to make sure I take responsibility for that experience and I can bring those sub levels down. And I did exactly this, right? I created distance. That's exactly what I did. And instead of actually giving them something to chew at that moment, I actually played with them, and I was playing with them with toys. And so technically they were chewing. So that's what happened. And then when they were calm, I brought them back in. And then I played the game. And the game I played is the closer you are to the bed, the more points you get. And the more treats you get. That was my game. So that's called Bed Manners, right? And that's such a great game to play. Such a great game. And that's why I always recommend people having beds that are raised. Like I used different types of beds, but I find it very successful when you have raised beds because just that position, it is so different. It helps you like really mark that behavior of calmness. So that was a really good question, Megan. I really like that question because that covers a lot of things. So that was really, really good. Does anybody else have anything else you want to discuss and talk about? Bruce.
Yes, just so almost the polar opposite of that situation. We've noticed with Misty, we'll get her sitting up on a rock or something like that. And like we have a sequence of events. So you're going to sit, lie down, stand up, that kind of thing. And then after she does about 3 or 4 of those different things up on the rock or a no-go post, she gets a treat. But we've noticed she'll get up on the rock and then all of a sudden she's totally disengaged. And who knows, she's just looking off at the distance and there's nothing there. Yeah. But she's just totally zoned right out.
Yeah. So we definitely have to play more proximity games. And it's really, really interesting because I was just working on some games today, actually, that create more engagement, where your dog is really, really focused on you. So I show you some of those behaviors next. I'll show them to you on the pack walks, and we're working on right now doing some videos with covering these games as well. So soon we'll have like the ability to share some of these games as well, so you can watch them and then try them on your own.
Okay, great.
Yeah, for sure. But I will definitely not reward her by giving her a treat. I will only reward her by hunting the treat, for sure, because I will always be throwing the treats out, so she has to move. Instead of like standing still and staring at something, I will create that different experience for her.
Now, I do notice, though, she is a lot more engaged when we're actually walking.
Nice.
Doing the watch and that. And she'll even check in with the nose on my hand sometimes.
That's good. Yeah. That's good.
And
that's
really good. I definitely want to reward that because it's great behavior. It means she says, okay, it's trust from her.
Yeah, and I have this really cool game that I work when I really want to create that yo-yo effect, like when people have a dog that never wants to come to you. I call it the go game, and this one is basically I hold the dog and then I put a container and I toss a treat on the container and the dog is really excited, and when the dog stops I say go, and the dog is like shoots to grab the treat, like shoots really fast to get the treat, and then they come back, and then I have even a bigger treat of more value with me, and I praise them and I play with them and I get a little bit of excitement when they come back to me, and then I hold them again, I put the treat on a container, I say go, and they're like boom, they go, but then they want to come back so fast because I have better treats and I make such a party when they're coming back. So that's creating that JoJo where the dog is never really want to go. So I have those that go like, I want the treat, but I'm coming back. So that's really, really amazing. That's what you want to get. So so what does that do? That game is specifically, let's say your dog chase a deer. Well, as soon as they notice they're away from you, they will come back. They wouldn't even finish the chase. If you play that game enough, that's what happens. Their body starts doing things for them because that's what muscle memory is. And they won't even know why it's happening. They just know they have to come back as soon as possible. Right? Yeah, for sure. So we'll work on all of that. We'll work on all these games. Mm-hmm. Anybody else that has a question or wants to share?
Yeah, I'll share something. So with Blue, if we go, for example, to the cafe and we attach him outside, once we go inside, he doesn't really bark too much, but it's like if I come back and then I don't go talk to him right away and he's attached and he can see me, then he's going to just bark like nonstop.
If he can see you?
Yeah, when he can see me, if he's attached, so he can't really get to me, then he kind of gets like, he wants us to go now, you know?
Yeah. So that's building independence. and building the ability to understand how they can change the channels in you. How can they get how he has to learn what behaviors he has to do in order to change the channels with you, so that you'll do what he wants. So he hasn't learned. Now, the challenge with barking is that if you're practicing it often and you react in any way, he's actually getting a response from you, which is actually the equivalent of a reinforcement. So what I would suggest is, we have a class coming up. So I would really, really suggest not practicing that, because you are building that rehearsal. So you're actually teaching to do that. So I don't want to do that. I want to actually play games where he's able to not be in a situation where he may trigger people, and where you may feel like, oh my God, I got to control my dog, I can't let him bark. I would teach that in a different circumstance so he can actually be successful. And then when you take him out to like the coffee shop with your friends, he's actually going to have absolutely no problem. But you haven't even trained him on that particular event. You haven't even taught him what the script is. Do you have a script for that particular behavior?
No, not really.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll help you. We'll build that script. So a good example is, whenever my dog is under a command, away from me, tied up on a bed, my dog is calm and relaxed no matter what we're doing. Okay, so that will be a good example of a script. And like, for example, especially for people living in Squamish, okay, Squamish people are phenomenal. But one of the things that we like to do most is adventures. Guess what? If you're gonna have a dog with you on adventures, guess what you're gonna have to do? Have your dog tied up every once in a while. Have your dog come around a fire when you have all your friends. That your dog has to be able to settle. Your dog has to be able to be calm. So that is, calm is magic. And as a matter of fact, it's so important that our next Zoom class is going to be about calmness. So this is going to be an amazing subject that we're going to cover next class. So that if you bring that question for next Zoom class, we'll have actually exercises that you can practice.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, you guys. Oh, there's Misty. I can see her. Hi, Misty. That is basically Misty's challenge. She's always a couch potato.
Actually, she just moved off the couch.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny. Oh, my God, Misty. You're hilarious. Hilarious. Okay, awesome, you guys. So this was an amazing Zoom. I hope you learned something. Please tell your friends about it. Keep joining us. We're doing this for the community. We're doing this because our aim is to evolve the human-dog relationship. We have a passion for what we do. And the more we share with people how dogs think, process information, how they grow, the better our dogs are going to be in the community. And then our dogs can actually give. And that is our goal, to have dogs that actually serve us, and to have dogs that are so happy and fulfilled that we can give to them and they can give to us, and our community is so much better. And that's what's best for all of us. Share it, tell people about the group. And if you have any questions, write them down. We will be posting this call on the Facebook page. And I hope you guys have all a great night.
You too.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.